My wife handed me a list of chores. Do these or I'm leaving. I said, fine. Then I hired a maid with our lifestyle budget and forwarded the bill. I'm 34 male. My wife, Hannah, 32, and I have been married for 7 years. On paper, our life is the American dream. Nice house in the suburbs, 2 decent cars, no kids yet. I work in corporate finance, which translates to long hours and high stress, but it pays the bills. All of them. The mortgage, the utilities, the insurance, the car notes. It all comes from my salary. Hannah works part-time at a high-end clothing boutique, about 15 to 20 hours a week. We've never had a strict formal budget, but we've always had an unspoken arrangement. Her income, around $1,400 a month, would go into our joint checking account, but it was tacitly understood to be hers to spend. It covered her brunches, her Pilates classes, new clothes, and the occasional designer bag. I never questioned it. My job was to provide stability. Hers was to enjoy the life we were building. I thought we were a team, but for the past year, the foundation of that team has felt rotten. There were constant, subtle digs, comments about how tired she was, how the house was a mess, how I needed to step up. It was a bizarre narrative, completely detached from reality. I handle all the groceries, cook most nights, do all the yard work, and manage our finances. But in her telling, she was a 1950s housewife chained to the stove while I did nothing. The resentment was baffling. Last night, it all detonated. I got home late, around 8 p.m., after a brutal quarterly review meeting. I was mentally fried. Hannah was waiting for me in the kitchen, her arms crossed. There was a weird energy in the room, tense and cold. She didn't say hello. She just slid a sheet of paper across the kitchen island. It was laminated, like she'd gone to a copy shop to make it permanent. Arthur's mandatory weekly duties. The list was exhaustive, broken down by day. Monday, all laundry, clean both bathrooms. Tuesday, dust all surfaces, vacuum everything. Wednesday, mop floors, handle all trash and recycling. It went on like that, culminating in me being responsible for all cooking and cleaning on the weekends. It was, without exaggeration, a second full-time job. What is this? I asked. My voice was dangerously low. It's the new standard, she said, her tone flat and rehearsed. I'm done being the only one who contributes to this household. You either do that list, every single week, no exceptions, or I'm leaving. I mean it, Arthur. I'll be at my mother's by morning. I looked at her, searching for the woman I married. I couldn't find her. All I saw was a stranger issuing a threat. There was no room for discussion in her eyes. It was an ultimatum, pure and simple. She expected me to crumble, to apologize, to promise to do anything to keep her. And in that moment, years of me biting my tongue, of me absorbing her little digs, of me working later to afford the lifestyle she was taking for granted. It all just snapped. Not in a fiery rage, but in a cold, quiet click. The emotional part of my brain just shut down and the finance guy took over. I stared at the list, then at her. Fine, I said. A flicker of smug victory crossed her face. She thought she'd won. Good. She snapped. You can start with the bathrooms. They're disgusting. She turned and walked into the living room, picking up her phone to start scrolling. I stood there for a minute, the laminated list feeling heavy in my hand. Then I pulled out my phone. I didn't go to our banking app. I knew the numbers. Her spending, our joint lifestyle creep, it was all swirling in my head. I opened Google. Full-service weekly home cleaning rates. I found a reputable local company, Premier Home Detailing. Their website was professional. I called and read the laminated list item by item to the woman on the phone. Yes, sir, she said, her voice patient. For that level of service, deep cleaning, laundry, linens, the works, our executive package would cover it. For a house your size, that runs $400 a week. We bill monthly, so it would be $1,600. More than her part-time income. But the number didn't faze me. It was just another expense line on a balance sheet. Great, I said. Can you start tomorrow? I booked it, paid the first month's invoice of $1,600 right then and there on our joint credit card, the one I paid off every month. Then I opened my messages. No grand email. That's not how real anger works. It's short, sharp, and brutal. I took a screenshot of the paid invoice from Premier Home Detailing. I sent it to Hannah. My only text was, problem solved. As you can imagine, our dining out entertainment budget is now zero for the foreseeable future to cover this new mandatory household expense. Teamwork. I walked into the living room. Her phone buzzed. I watched her read my text. I watched her click on the image of the invoice. I saw her brain work, the smugness dissolving into confusion, then into pure, undiluted fury. "What the hell is this?" she shrieked, jumping up from the couch. $1,600? Are you insane? "You gave me a list of mandatory duties," I said, my voice as cold as ice. "I've outsourced them. You wanted a solution. You got one. With our money? You can't just decide to spend $1,600. You just tried to leverage our entire marriage over a list of chores," I shot back. "I think that gives me the right to adjust the budget accordingly. You can't have a pristine house you don't have to lift a finger for and go out for cocktails and dinner 4 nights a week. You have to pick one. You already made your choice clear." She stared at me, speechless, her face crimson. She grabbed her car keys and purse. "I'm going to my mother's," she screamed. "I know," I said quietly as the door slammed behind her. That was always part of the plan, wasn't it? Update 1. It's been 2 weeks of the strangest silence I've ever experienced. I expected screaming phone calls, a barrage of texts. Instead, I got nothing. A strategic silence designed to make me anxious, to make me miss her. It didn't work. The clean house and the lack of constant low-grade criticism has been like a spa vacation for my nervous system. The first move came not from Hannah, but from her mother, Doris. She ambushed me with a phone call last week, starting with a syrupy, "Arthur, honey, how are you holding up?" before launching into a tirade about how Hannah is withering away from heartbreak and how I'm a cruel, controlling man for cutting her off. "I didn't cut her off, Doris," I said, pinching the bridge of my nose. "I reallocated a portion of our shared discretionary budget to cover a service she insisted was essential. She's welcome to come home anytime. But to take away her ability to feel like a person, to buy a new dress or see her friends, it's financial abuse." There was that phrase again. It was clearly their rehearsed talking point. "It's financial reality, Doris. We can't add a $1,600 monthly expense and change nothing else. That's not how math works." She hung up on me. The real drama happened 3 days ago. The cleaning service was scheduled to arrive at 10 a.m. At 9:55 a.m., my doorbell camera alert went off. It was Hannah letting herself in with her tea. 5 minutes later, the Premier home detailing van pulled up. My phone rang. It was the lead cleaner, a woman named Jacqueline. "Mr. Vance?" "Hi, it's Jacqueline from Premier. We're here for your service, but there's a woman here. She says she's your wife, who is refusing to let us in. She's standing in the doorway and saying the service is canceled." My blood ran cold. I could hear Hannah's raised voice in the background. "Jacqueline, please put me on speakerphone," I said. I heard some shuffling. "Okay, you're on speaker. Hannah, it's Arthur. You need to let them in to do their job." "Absolutely not," she yelled, her voice hysterical. "I live here. You can't have strangers in my house. I'm calling the police." "Then call them," I said, my voice dropping. "And when they get here, I will show them the signed contract with my name on it and the paid invoice for my credit card, and then I will ask them to remove you from the property for interfering with a contracted service at my private residence. How do you think that will look?" There was a long, choked silence. The only sound was Jacqueline's nervous breathing. "Let them in, Hannah. Don't make this uglier than it already is." I stayed on the line until Jacqueline quietly said, "She's letting us in, Mr. Vance. We're good." The incident spurred me into action. The happy piece was gone, replaced by a grim reality. This wasn't just a fight. I spent that afternoon calling lawyers. I found one who specialized in high-conflict divorce. His name was Christian. Our first meeting was yesterday. He told me to prepare for war, and the first step was to get a full, clear picture of our financial history. So that's what I've been doing for every spare second of the past 2 weeks. Every evening, every lunch break, all weekend. Fueled by rage and black coffee, I've been logged into our joint accounts, downloading 2 years of statements. Credit cards, checking, savings. I'm a finance guy. This is my language, and I'm building my case one transaction at a time. It's a mountain of data, but a story is starting to emerge, and it's not a pretty one. Update 2. The spreadsheet is done. It took me the better part of another 2 weeks, but it's a work of art, a testament to caffeine and spite. Hannah finally reached out a week ago, not with anger, but with a calculated sweetness that set off every alarm bell in my head. A text. Hey, this has all gone too far. I miss my husband. Can we please just talk? We agreed she'd come by the house last night. I knew this wasn't a reconciliation, it was a negotiation. She was just switching tactics. She arrived looking like the victim she was trying so hard to be. Soft sweater, minimal makeup, hair down. She tried to hug me at the door. I turned sideways, so it was just an awkward shoulder bump. We sat in the living room, me in the armchair, her on the couch, a deliberate distance. Arthur, she began, her voice trembling slightly. I was wrong. The list was crazy. I've been so unhappy, and I blamed you. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix this. Let's fire the cleaners. We'll go to counseling. We can make a new budget. Whenever you want. The offer was tempting. It was the easy path. But I knew it was a lie. I agree, we should look at the budget, I said, reaching for my laptop on the end table. I've actually prepared a summary. I turned the screen to her. It wasn't just a budget. It was a 2-year financial autopsy of our marriage. It showed my salary, our core expenses, and then the big one, a category I'd labeled non-essential lifestyle spending. Her column was a sea of red, item after item, month after month. $220 at the Oak Room brunch, $410 at Style & Grace Boutique, $300 for a concert I wasn't invited to. I'd even tallied the totals. Our combined lifestyle spending averaged around $2,500 a month. Her part-time income of $1,400 didn't even cover it. My salary was subsidizing her social life to the tune of over $1,000 a month, on top of every single actual bill. Her face went white as she scrolled through the list. You're throwing brunches in my face? This is insane, Arthur. This is what a marriage is. No, this is what our marriage was, I said, my voice hard. And I needed to know why. Why the sudden ultimatum? Why the laminated list? It never made sense. I clicked to the next tab. It was a copy of our joint credit card statement from 2 months ago. I found the why, Hannah. I was going through the statements and this charge stuck out to me. I pointed to a line item. Charge date, 4/12/2025. Merchant, Bali Bliss Travel Co. Amount, $1,000. What is Bali Bliss Travel, Hannah? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. She froze. I saw the calculation in her eyes, the desperate search for a plausible lie. She found none. I knew the name sounded familiar, I continued, my voice devoid of emotion. So I did a little digging. It's a luxury travel agency. They specialize in high-end girls' trips. I called them. I said I was your husband and needed a copy of the itinerary for my records. They emailed it right over. A lie, of course. My lawyer had a paralegal make the call, using a few clever tricks to get the information. But the effect was the same. I clicked to the final tab. It was the full itinerary. Bali Bliss Girls Getaway. A 10-day trip. With her 3 best friends, one of whom I knew was Catherine. Total cost, $4,800 per person. The $1,000 charge was the deposit. The final, non-refundable balance of $3,800 was due last week. You didn't have the money, I said, connecting the dots out loud for her. You put down the deposit with my bonus money, thinking you could manipulate me into funding the rest. The laminated list, the ultimatum, it was all a fabrication. A manufactured crisis so you could storm out, play the victim, and then graciously accept my apology in the form of a luxury vacation. You were going to defraud me for a trip to Bali. The mask didn't just slip, I ripped it off. The fake remorse vanished, replaced by the cornered snarling rage of a predator that's been caught. You are a pathetic snooping bastard, she spat. And you're a thief who uses our marriage as a line of credit, I retorted. I turned the laptop back to me and scrolled to the bottom of the spreadsheet. A final section, titled Post-Separation Financial Reality. It estimated her full-time income. It listed average rent for a 1-bedroom apartment, utilities, car insurance, gas, groceries. At the bottom in bright red was her projected disposable income after taxes and necessities, about $350 a month. This is your life now, Hannah, I said, closing the laptop. This is what pulling your own weight actually looks like. The cleaners are staying, and I've already paid the retainer for my lawyer. He'll be serving you with divorce papers at your mother's house tomorrow. She didn't plead this time. She didn't bargain. She just stared at me with a look of pure, unadulterated hatred. I will take you for everything you have, she hissed. No, I said, standing up. You won't. You already tried. Final update. 10 months. That's how long it takes to dismantle a life. The divorce was finalized 3 weeks ago. It was not a clean or quiet process. It was a grinding, expensive, and soul-crushing war of attrition waged through lawyers. Hannah, true to her word, tried to take me for everything. Her lawyer was aggressive, painting her as a downtrodden wife who sacrificed her career for my benefit and was now being cast aside. They demanded permanent alimony, half the house, everything. My lawyer, a shark named Christian, was worth every single dollar. He countered with the spreadsheet, the detailed 2-year breakdown of her spending versus her income. He presented the Bali itinerary. He showed that her part-time work was a lifestyle choice, not a sacrifice. The battle was brutal. It involved depositions, financial discovery, and a lot of ugly accusations. In the end, the judge wasn't an idiot. The final settlement was a brutal reality check for Hannah. The house was designated my sole property, as it was purchased before our marriage. A fact my lawyer dug up that I'd forgotten was legally significant. She was awarded 6 months of transitional alimony, a pittance compared to her old lifestyle, and half of the liquid assets we'd accrued during the marriage. After my legal fees, it was a substantial check, but it's a one-time payment. It's not a permanent subsidy. Doris remains a low-level annoyance. She leaves me a rambling, angry voicemail about once a month, which I delete without listening to. Hannah tried to run a smear campaign on social media, but it's hard to maintain the image of a glamorous victim when you're not living a glamorous life. Most of our mutual friends just went quiet, not wanting to be caught in the crossfire. From what I've heard, Hannah and her mother used a chunk of the settlement money as a down payment on a small condo on the far side of town. Hannah got a full-time job, an office manager at a dental practice. She's not destitute, but her world of spontaneous luxuries has evaporated. She's living a normal, middle-class life, and to her, it's a prison sentence. As for me, I'm okay. The process left me lighter in the wallet and heavier in spirit. It's hard to go through something like that and not become cynical. The house is still mine. Premier Home Detailing still comes every Tuesday like clockwork, but the house feels different now. I took down the generic art she bought and hung up posters of national parks. I bought a proper grill, something she always called an eyesore. I'm slowly, deliberately reclaiming my space, my life. There's no triumphant feeling of victory. There's just quiet. The quiet of not waiting for the next passive-aggressive comment. The quiet of a budget that makes sense. The quiet of a home that is a refuge, not a battleground. My lawyer told me that a successful divorce isn't one where you win, it's one you survive. I survived. And in the quiet moments, I'm starting to realize that's more than enough.